It's tomorrow morning, and you haven't even left the house yet. You pick up your phone, and a little icon tells you it's going to rain at 3 in the afternoon, 70% chance. You grab an umbrella, and you don't think twice about it. But stop for a second. You just read the future. You looked at a moment that hasn't happened yet, the sky, hours from now, in one specific place, and you were probably right. For almost all of human history, that was impossible. Sailors drowned because they couldn't do what your phone just did for free. Whole armies were wiped out by a storm nobody saw coming. Farmers planted on a hunch and starved when the hunch was wrong. Weather was superstition. It was omens, aching knees, and red skies at night. So how did we get from that to a number you'd actually bet your weekend on? Before I tell you, lock in a guess right now. How many days into the future do you think a forecast can actually be trusted? Not the 10-day strip on your phone, the part that's genuinely reliable. Pick a number, comment it. By the end, you'll find out if you were right. Here's where it starts. The first thing to understand is that weather is not random, and it does not appear out of nowhere. It travels. The storm soaking one town is, very often, the same storm that soaks the next town tomorrow. Weather has a direction, which means predicting it is almost a trick. You don't need to see the future, you just need to see far enough. Sideways. If you know what's happening 200 miles upwind, you already know a piece of your tomorrow. But there was a problem. For thousands of years, weather moved faster than we did. A storm could be roaring toward a city, and there was no way to warn it. No message could outrun the clouds. Then, in the 1840s, that flipped. The telegraph. Suddenly, a message could cross a continent in minutes, and for the first time in history, information moved faster than the weather. A town could be warned before the storm ever arrived. In 1861, a man named Robert Fitzroy, the same captain who once sailed Charles Darwin around the world, started gathering telegraph reports from across Britain, plotting them onto a map, and issuing what he was the very first to call a forecast. The word itself is his. The Weatherman was born. And that map is still the foundation of everything. Today, it's a global net of thousands of ground stations on every continent, each one measuring the same handful of things: temperature, humidity, wind, and the quiet hero of the whole story: pressure. Air has weight, and when the weight of the air starts to drop, when the pressure falls, it almost always means one thing: something is coming. A falling barometer was the world's first machine that could see tomorrow, a needle that dips hours before the first cloud ever appears. But the ground is lying to you, or at least, it's only telling you a sliver of the story. Because everything happening at your feet is just the floor of something enormous, an ocean of air, miles deep, and the real weather lives up there, where you can't feel it. So twice a day, at the exact same moment, all over the planet, we throw instruments into the sky. Weather balloons, thousands of them, released simultaneously, each carrying a little sensor called a radiosonde that radios back the temperature, the pressure, and the wind the whole way up until the balloon swells and bursts at the edge of the stratosphere. It is the most coordinated science experiment on Earth, and it happens every 12 hours without fail. But balloons and stations still leave enormous holes. Nobody's launching balloons in the middle of the Pacific. Most of the planet is ocean and desert and empty. Blind spots, where storms are born unwatched. So we went higher. In the 1960s, we started putting the whole system above the weather itself. There are two kinds, and the difference is beautiful. The first sits 22,000 miles up, and at that exact altitude, something strange happens. It orbits at precisely the speed the Earth spins, so from the ground, it never moves. It hangs over the same spot forever, staring down, filming one entire half of the planet without blinking. That endless swirling cloud loop on the evening news? That's this. It is watching a hurricane breathe in real time. The second kind flies low and loops pole to pole while the Earth turns underneath it, so strip by strip, it scans the entire planet twice a day in razor-sharp detail, the parts no balloon will ever reach. And now, finally, forecasters can see the shapes, the highs and the lows, the fronts, those boundaries where a mass of warm air collides with cold and wrings out rain. And steering all of it, 5 miles overhead, a river of wind moving close to 200 miles an hour. The jet stream. The invisible conveyor belt that drags storms across whole continents. That comma-shaped swirl of cloud you've seen 1,000 times? Now they know exactly why it curls. And for the rain that's already here, there's one more tool: radar. It fires out a pulse and listens for the echo bouncing off raindrops. But here's the clever part. By measuring how the echo's pitch shifts, the way a siren changes as it races past you, the radar can tell not just where the rain is, but which way it's moving and how fast. That is how a tornado warning reaches your phone minutes before the funnel ever touches the ground. But here's the twist that surprises almost everyone. None of what I've just described actually predicts anything. Balloons, satellites, stations, radar, every one of them only tells you what the sky is doing right now. They take the planet's temperature. They don't see the future at all. So where does the prediction actually happen? Not in a person, in a machine. Because the atmosphere, for all its chaos, is really just physics. Air is a fluid, and fluids obey equations, the same kind of math that describes water moving through a pipe. Back in 1904, a Norwegian scientist named Wilhelm Bjerknes realized something staggering. If you knew the state of the air right now, you could, in theory, calculate the weather forward in time. The future wasn't magic, it was arithmetic. The only problem was that the arithmetic was monstrous. In 1922, an Englishman named Lewis Fry Richardson actually tried it, by hand, with a pencil, to compute a single day's forecast. It took him 6 weeks, and by the time he finished, the day he was predicting was already long gone. He wasn't wrong, he was just early, because the thing that would finish his idea hadn't been invented yet: the supercomputer. Here is what a modern forecast actually is. Take the entire atmosphere and chop it into a grid. Millions of tiny three-dimensional boxes stacked from the ground to the edge of space. Pour in everything the balloons and the satellites just measured. Then let the computer solve the physics for every single box. Step forward a few minutes and do it all again. And again. Billions of calculations every second, marching the whole planet's weather into next week. And that's 70% on your phone? That's the last secret. They don't run the simulation once. They run it dozens of times, each one with tiny nudges to the starting numbers. If 50 runs happen and 35 of them rain on your town, that is your 70%. The forecast isn't a prediction, it's a vote. Which brings us to the wall. The reason your phone's 10-day forecast feels like a lie by day 8. In 1961, a scientist named Edward Lorenz was running an early weather simulation, and to save time, he restarted it from the middle, typing in a number rounded to 3 decimals instead of 6. A difference of 1 part in 1,000. Invisible. The new forecast came out completely different. That tiny rounding error became one of the most important discoveries of the century. He had found chaos, the butterfly effect. In a system like the atmosphere, the smallest uncertainty doesn't stay small. It doubles and doubles again until it swallows the entire forecast. And since we can never measure every molecule of air perfectly, there is a hard ceiling on how far ahead we can ever see. Not a technology limit, a physics limit. And it sits at roughly 2 weeks. No computer that will ever be built can push past it. So, your guess, how far can a forecast really be trusted? The honest answer? About 7 days for something you genuinely rely on, 10 at the ragged edge, and around 14, prediction itself simply stops being possible. Everything past that is a coin toss in a nice font. Check your comment, see how close you were. Now go back to the beginning. You, in the morning, glancing at your phone. That little raindrop icon at 3 o'clock. That icon is the output of thousands of balloons torn apart in the stratosphere. Satellites hanging motionless 22,000 miles overhead, a radar net listening for echoes, 100 years of physics, and a machine simulating the entire sky of the planet you live on. The single most complex prediction our species knows how to make. And you'll glance at it for half a second, grab your umbrella, and never once think about the fact that you just read the future. One last thing, because I genuinely want to know. When a 70% chance of rain comes and the day stays dry, Was the forecast wrong? Or was it right and you just misread it? Because those are two very different things. Tell me which side you're on. I want the argument. We get curious about the things nobody thinks to ask. Subscribe and feed your idle curiosity.